Thank you for joining us on the next edition of Zone-Based Trainer, Michael Costa, who made the move to Dubai to show what he could do and now trains for the Jebel Ali team. Welcome, Michael. How are we today, mate?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for having us on.
No dramas at all, mate. Firstly, just want to say congratulations, gorgeous little girl. I can imagine that's a perfect way to start the season, especially coming a day before your first race over there.
Yeah, look, it's we've never been one to do things in halves. We've got three young boys already, and my wife had fallen pregnant, and this position came up. So the timing of it all to have a new baby right at the start of a new season, I guess there's plenty going on. But it was I left the maternity ward to come to the first meeting, and it was a very good weekend. We had our first daughter, and to add to the team of boys that we currently got at home, and then to get a double on the first meeting as well was very enjoyable.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, my wife and I are actually expecting our first child, a daughter, in about 6 weeks. So, yeah, really excited about that as well. Yeah. So we'll start at the beginning, Michael. Just how you originally got into horse racing, and where your passion came from.
Yeah, sure. I grew up in Western Sydney, so Western Sydney in New South Wales, Australia, which is a very horse-dense population. There's a racetrack there called Hawkesbury Racetrack. But just growing up, I didn't have any family ties in racing, let alone horses at all, and I just developed a passion for. I was 3 or 4 years old, just a love of horses, and used to ride ponies as much as I could growing up. And from there, went and worked at a few trotting stables just as a young teen, 12 and 13, just to really learn the basics of just being in a stable. And I really immersed myself and had laser focus on the one subject of horses from when I was a teenager. From that age of about 16, I went and started in a thoroughbred stable. I was also learning, starting to do some studying in equine science, acupuncture, and those sorts of things as well. And then from there, started writing track work whilst I was still in school, and ended up, after finishing school, went and worked for a racing stable at Hawkesbury Racecourse, writing full-time track work. And then made the move to Randwick, riding track work as well. So yeah, no family ties, but just had a love and a passion for the horses, and then thoroughbred, and then the racing came along after that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know Hawkesbury well. I actually grew up on the Gold Coast, and I live about 10 minutes from Bundamba Ipswich track. So yeah, I'm a Queensland lad myself. So what was it about horses? Was it the study that you said you did equine studies? Was that what really drove the passion around horses?
No, it wasn't. It was just the passion was just because I wanted to just immerse myself and learn anything that I could. I wasn't interested in really anything else. So it was just that laser focus. With horses, it's really, there's something that if you could bottle up the emotion just when I look at a horse, it's just something that you feel complete about being around in their presence. I think they're the most amazing animal in the world. So it's just an affinity, and I love for the animal.
And we go back to that first win with Daddy Warbuck, onto a career that saw over 1,500 starters, close to 300 winners, 8.2 million in career race earnings. What convinced you to move from Australia to take up the position that you're in at the moment?
Yeah, it was actually a bit to get to that amount of winners. I was training for a decade in Australia. I kicked off with one tried horse. So it was definitely a big slog. I really only had 1 or 2 horses for my first season, and built it up in a very slow and organic growth. But in the last couple of years in Australia, we finished with the best winning strike rate in the last season before we came over. The last season at the yearling sales was the first season I really went out and started to purchase some horses that leaped at the average. Before that, we were really buying at the bottom end of the market, the real position. We were a respected stable in the country, so it definitely wasn't an easy decision to to come over to Dubai, and it definitely wasn't on the card either. What was on the cards was continued growth and looking to become a premier trainer in Queensland. And I believe with the growth we were having, it was only a matter of time before we were tackling Golan at some stage for that sort of position. So, but we flew over. Initially, I was a little bit cold on the idea of coming over, but after a few calls with the team in Dubai, we came over to have a look. And my wife and I came over at the end of February, beginning of March, had a quick look around, and after understanding of what the team wanted and what the job entailed, I was very confident that even though it was a tough decision, that we had to come and take on the challenge.
Yeah, awesome. And as the profile in the region, you know, whether it be Dubai, UAE, and the wider region grows, what are your thoughts on racing and you know, the bigger races coming in to the region as the profile continues to rise?
I'm still learning about it. I've only just now been to all the tracks, so I'm still finding our feet about all the tracks and learning. And I haven't been here for a carnival yet, but I think there's a beautiful opportunity, and I'm excited to see what is going to happen in the next decade in racing here in the UAE. I think they've got a wonderful product with Maidan, the redevelopments at Jebel Ali, the fantastic facility. I just pinch myself every morning coming in. I really do feel like I'm one of the luckiest trainers in the world training here. So it's a track that could definitely showcase some bigger races. And I think that's all before the whole UAE racing in the next decade.
And as you mentioned, you're getting used to the tracks and you're getting around the circuit there. Coming from the base on the Gold Coast to Dubai, and the change in racing conditions, you know, mostly turf over here to majority dirt tracks over there where you are now. Has that really heavily influenced a change in your training style?
There was still definitely learning. I think the fundamentals are definitely all the same. And I've spoken to a lot of people, a lot of, I guess you'd say, dirt experts as well. And the more you speak, you see conflicting ideas and everything like that. So I think the basics are have your horses fit, have them well. The one main difference would be on the dirt. There's really nowhere to hide. They have to be rock hard fit. So that's something that you could get away with at home or on the turf. You could really plan out your programs to leave a fair bit in the tank first up with a good fitness base going into your preparations. But with a short season here, you've got only a certain amount of suitable races to get to, so you really have to make sure you're ready. But fitness is definitely the key here.
And training there with the Sheikh ownership, has he really influenced or made you adapt the way you train?
One of the greatest thing about His Highness is that he's just empowered all of our decisions, and really when he selected me for the position, he's really entrusted me with the role. So the conversations we've had, he's extremely knowledgeable of knowing all the horses, all the pedigrees, and we discussed ideas of moving forward. But the most amazing thing is he's allowed me to really get stuck in. We're definitely in a rebuilding stage since we arrived, and it's going to take a year or two to get it on track to where we want it. But no, I'm just so thankful for his support and empowering me to make the decisions that we believe is right to get the stable back to its glory days.
And having trained in Australia and there now, in terms of traveling and moving horses around the world, what's your experience been? You know, some horses, as you know, get knocked around and can't handle the trip. I need that recovery time once they land or touch down. What's your experiences, you know, coming from Australia to Dubai now in terms of the horses that you get into the stable and seeing the impact that the travel and the movement has on those horses?
Yeah, I think it's an individual horse case. I think you've got to assess your horse before they leave to see if you think they're going to be a suitable travel horse. We've just recently had 18 horses arrive from the UK. We've got another 3 arriving from Australia at the end of December, and a couple come from the US as well. So it's just an individual sort of case basis. And then having, I think it's just being on the forefront and having your program set around what you believe can happen, and trying to minimise your risk of any negative things happening with your program as well. So I think it's just an individual horse basis, and just do as much as you can to ensure that they travel the best way they can.
And you just mentioned some of the horses that you're getting in. For example, the two-time Queen Elizabeth stakes winner, having him in the stable, it suggests the quality of horse you're being given to train is varied, but of a higher quality.
Deep's not in the stable; he's been retired. But the speaking, I guess the only way to put it is the stable that we've inherited. The reason why we've been called over to this role, they've had a couple of quiet years. There was only 4 winners for the stable last season, so we've got a bit to do. We've started this season extremely well, but as I said before, it's going to take a couple of seasons to get it to where we need it to be. So look, there's some stock in here which the vision for the stable this year is just to get the greatest out of every horse that's in the barn. We went over to the US this year, came in and bought 10 extremely nice yearlings, and I believe that they're top notch, and it's only a matter of time before they'll get over here and really fly the flag. And after we've gotten our grounding here and re-established a bit of Dubai dominance, we'll then look to travel those horses around the world and tackle some carnivals.
Yeah, awesome. And in terms of the staff you have around yourself, I spoke with JBO earlier in the week, and he said that the partnership that you've developed over the years, from meeting originally when he was with Bjorn to now, it really works effectively, and it's something that he's proud of in terms of that partnership. How do you see that partnership from your perspective with JVO in terms of having him as one of your lead jockeys?
Well, just starting with his riding abilities, he's just an outstanding jockey, and I really believe if he gets the opportunity over the carnival, he'll really match it with the big boys. So I'm excited to see that from his personal level. But as a relationship, he's just a great human being. So it's very easy he's very easy to work with. He's very hungry. He's very determined. There's really not a bad bone in his body when you're dealing with him. But then he's got this great hunger when he's out there race riding. So I'm blessed that we were able to land him, and I'm excited that we've started the season well with him and what we can achieve this season with him. And I trust that he'll come back next year and the year after, and we'll go on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, awesome. And when I spoke with him, he mentioned Masar, obviously touted as a star of the season, now going 2 for 2, as well as Mahib taking out the Shadwell Cup in the opening weekend of the UAE race season. What are your thoughts on this pair of potential stars?
Well, Mahib, he's a horse that we brought back to the sprint races. He had three runs last season, and they looked to stretch him out. I think even the season before to get him over 1900, but he looks like a genuine sprinter, so we'll keep him fresh. He'll go to a stakes race Friday week at Meydan. We'll see how he comes up against stakes level, but he's really improved since his first up run here. And there's some nice sprint races on the dirt for him. Marcel's an interesting horse. He was a horse that was, when we came, we got a bit of information that he was potentially a horse that could have been retired at the start of the season. There wasn't too much of a wrap on him, but we kicked him off in training, and quite early on, we detected that he had some quite impressive heart rates coming through on his heart rate monitor. He had quite a nice engine for a neat sort of horse, and he's really just been on an upward improvement in his workouts as well. So he's won 2 from 2 at home, and he beat a pretty decent field last start. So we'll look to throw him in the deep end shortly, and he's just one of those horses you just continue to build and see where he ends up.
Yeah, awesome. And tomorrow you head back to Meydan with 4 runners, including Avantgarde in the listed Dubai Creek Mile. What are your thoughts on that chance as well as the other 3 runners?
Mihail, I think if he brings his track work to the track, I think he'd be extremely hard to beat. He's a horse from the UK, still a maiden. He's been comfortably in his first start here, but the way he's been working here at home and having his first start for us this season, I think he'll be very competitive. Yuhari, he won his first start here at Jebel Ali, but he's going up in grade. He's improved as well, but we'll just have to see how he comes up to a firmer style of race. Excuse me. We've then got Avantgarde, he's having his first start for the stable as well. I do think that he'll be a horse which will better improve second, third up over a little bit further. Just got a bit of a real staying style about him. So I think from the gate he'll most likely go back and find his rhythm, but I think for him second, third up. And then Sadi, he's got to carry the 62 kilos, but I think he's a horse ready to win. So let's trust we can bookend the meeting and see what happens in between.
Yeah, awesome. And you mentioned earlier, it's more of a 2-year plan and 2-season plan. What are the plans for this current season? Is it just to see what you can get from these current horses in the stable and then build on that as we go, into next season and into the next season from there?
Yeah, definitely. There's some horses that will look to have a bit of a dispersal at the end of the season. So we do need to start again with a few, but the main vision for this season is just to get the greatest out of every horse we've got, and then really start to filter in the yearlings that we select through the barn from the seasons ahead.
And coming from, as you said, you were hesitant to begin with in terms of the shift to the UAE to take up training there, and you've established a fairly great career in terms of training in Australia. What has been some highlights of your career to date in both regions?
Well, just starting. We've got a lot to achieve here, and we'll just continue to look for the 1%ers and just get better and better every week. So it's good to start the season well, but this season, as we said, we just want to get the greatest out of every horse, and we've still got a lot of horses to hit the races. So that's what we want to achieve this season, and I'd like to think that we'll have a half a dozen horses get to the carnival and represent the stable in the carnival as well. We definitely in future seasons, every season, have a strong band going in the carnival. But back home, it was enjoyable for having the best strike rate. We're accustomed to getting winners every week. One of the races I was very pleased to win was the Grafton Cup, as I lived in Grafton for a year. It was one of those races which was a bit of a home grand final sort of thing. So to win that, it was very enjoyable.
Yeah, and when you talk about that, like for example, when I speak with jockeys over here, the Bayless boys, for example, wanting to win an Ipswich Cup, I feel it's pretty much similar to that as well.
Exactly right. Yes.
Yeah, and so you mentioned the 10 yearlings that are coming to the stable now. How large is the stable right at this point?
We've currently got 67 in the stable, and they'll. As I said, there'll be 3 arrived from Australia, 1 from the US shortly. The 10 yearlings they're currently still in the US going through the breaking in process as well. So they'll come over to the UAE in July next year, and they'll kick off next year. We'll also look to head to the breeze up sales in the US, and potentially we'll head back to Easter Australia to look to pick up a couple of yearlings for some future prospects as well.
That's awesome. And you're looking at as you said, you're looking at the 1%ers in the current season, and you have that 67 horse stable. Who are some stars that you can either you've seen the potential in them, or that you can imagine and see really bringing the potential to the track in the future? Just a few horses that punters can keep an eye on.
Yeah, we've got we give a couple of trial horses because they've got form behind them. There's a horse called Carolina Reaper. She's just arrived. We purchased her from New Zealand. She'll be looking to go to the Films and Math Classics over the carnival. So we haven't. She's just into some strong work now. We haven't released the handbrake. So the next couple of weeks will give us a good guide on where she's at. We've also had a horse arrive from the UK from William Haggis called Nahar, and we'll be looking to set him for the turf sprint races over the carnival. And then there's a 2-year-old called Seyouf. He had his first start there at Maidan. He'll head to a listed race next Friday night as well. He looks to be one to follow. And also there's a new form horse coming from the US called Homebrew. he's looks to have a little bit of quality there. So they're probably the horses which will be at this stage most likely be calmed down in some shape or form, and then we'll need to just see what else sort of puts their hand up between now and the next couple of months.
And the final question really I have is basically from the beginning, getting into this industry to now, and you look back at your achievements and your success, as you said, that great strike rate in Australia, leading strike rate. What are some things you've learned along the way in terms of valuable lessons, not only in this industry, but just success overall and being able to deal with being that kind of trainer and that kind of person?
Something that comes to mind is it really starts with the team behind you. If you're only going to have a small team, when I kicked off, I was working up to 20 horses just by myself. So, but once you go to that growth stage, it's definitely about having the right people on the bus. Back home, I always have the belief if you always do the right thing, you never be wrong, and never go for the quick buck. Always just treat owners, give them what you'd expect as an owner, and then you've just got to stay even keeled as well. So that's probably the main key. It's definitely a marathon and not a sprint. So you've got to stay even keeled.
Awesome. Thanks so much for this, Michael.
No worries. Thanks for having us on.
It's been really good. Thank you.